Hey guys, today I'm going to do a book talk on Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. So this is a parallel book to Empire of Storm, which was the 5th book in the Throne of Glass series. This one is considered technically the 6th, so it happens at the same time, and it focuses on Chol after he goes to the Southern Continent to seek help to heal his broken legs. So if you haven't read the series, you definitely should. And if you want to watch the book talks on the other 5 books, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, Heir of Fire, Queen of Shadow, Empire, and Empire of Storms, click the eye up here. I really love this series, and I cannot wait for it to be continued in 2018, especially because then Elaine can be back in it. So if you haven't read this book, go now because I'm going to start diving into spoilers. So read this book. Bye. Okay, so it starts out with Nazarene pushing Chol into the castle in the Southern Continent. So they talk to the ruler there, and they first try to get him to send ally and for them to help Chol, because they have some of the best healers. So they originally said that he had 6 kids, but only 5 of them were there. So they were like, there was 6, and they're like, wait, there's only 5. So later they figure out that his daughter, his youngest one, had committed suicide from jumping off the balcony. And so they offered him jewels and a bunch of money, basically, for him to send help as kind of a present type thing. So he's like, he was saying that basically he knew that it was from Aelin and knew that she had been slain as Sardathian and all this was blood money, basically. So he had not wanted to accept it and told him to keep it, and had said that he could use the Torah of healers, but he wasn't going to send an army at this time of mourning, because they had hung white banners, which is what they do when someone dies. And in this kingdom, it's not the firstborn who gets the throne, it's the person that the former ruler appoints to it. So basically all the siblings are competing against each other to see who would win. So Nazarene and Chol get appointed to a room where it's kind of a suite, and then there's the living room type thing, and then they each have a room. And back over at the Torah of Healers, the healer on high, who kind of runs the place, talked to one of the healers, Yorin, who is from Finharrow and escaped from that when they were killing all the healers. She made it to the Southern Continent. But before how she made it there was she got help from a stranger in Inish, who gave her some money and told her, and left a note that said, for your journeys and whatever more, and had said the world needs more healers, who was kind of close and she didn't know who he was, but she helped him get to there. So the healer on high had told Yoren about it, because she was thinking about leaving. She wanted to go join the war and help any way she could. But before she left, the healer on high, Hephaestus, said that she should heal him. And he's like, but the person's from Adarlan, which she knew was the kingdom that destroyed her home. So she was very reluctant to do it. She's like, fine, I'll assess it. And so she went to see him, and she was asking him questions to write down the answers. And on the paper, after she had left, she kind of left angrily. Like, he's not coming back. She had written names of all the family that had been killed from the Adrelanian soldiers. So she eventually does come back, and she starts healing, but she does it. She's very rude to Chol because she believes all of them are horrible people, and especially since he was the captain of the guard, he doesn't trust she doesn't trust him at all. So after one of the siblings cashed in one of the cans in this castle, one of his sons, the person that was the castle, went up to Charles and said that he thinks his youngest sister's death to Malone had not been a suicide. She would never do that, but someone had killed her. And so he was worried about that, and they were trying to see if something indeed had been coming to that continent, because after Yuan had figured out what had happened to Chol, after she had worked on healing him for a while, she started doing research on it in the library at the tour to see if she could find anything that would help. So she was doing research one night when she heard noises, and she kept looking up, but she didn't see anything. So eventually she heard something, and she decided that she would pack up everything and leave. And she passed by a girl who had looked similar to her, who was basically just a husk, like the ones they had found from the Vag up in the northern continent, like Aelin and all them had found. So she told the librarian, and they made a sound. They rung the bell and had everyone leave the library, and then the guards had come to check everything, and they had doubled the security. And Nezrin and Sartag had decided to see if there's any tunnels that would help them. They had looked and hadn't found any Vlag or anything. So, they believe that Yuan is being hunted by the Vlag, and eventually Yuan was working on her healing, and Troll would try to get the attention of the Kanji, so get his audience so that they could talk about getting soldiers to help with the war. And he had been unsuccessful and hadn't been able to basically do anything. Every time he would bring it up at dinner or anything, he would say he had to talk to his chief of visitors to schedule a meeting, which he knew would not happen, so he didn't even try. So after time of healing, Chol started getting feeling in his toes so that he could wiggle them. It took a lot of effort, but he could. Chol would have him doing exercises on his legs to help the blood flow. And also, he had gone to ride a horse from a brace that they had been fashioned so he could ride one. So they rode through town. And he also went to the Torah to help her with a lesson on defense, because she had been taught defense by the stranger in Enish who had helped her and told her to teach it to other people. So she had been teaching the healers there, so they wanted to come. And Chol had offered to help, to show them. So when he went, he rode his horse there, and then Yuan started teaching, and so he didn't like it because he was basically being treated like a specimen more than a person. And he had helped them with defense and everything, and then he had gone home in a rage because he was mad at her. And the next day, she came back to heal him, and he was mad. He's like, what's wrong? I thought we moved past this. And he told her about it. So Nezrin had been riding with Sartag because he had rode the works. In this guy who was known as the Winged Prince, and Nezrin had grown up hearing stories because she came from the southern continent. She had also visited her aunt and uncle, and who lived there, and her cousins. So she went for a ride with him, and she loved it, obviously, because, So he had started telling her how he had heard of her Neith's arrow, how she had fired that impossible shot to save the shapeshifter. And he had been going off to help. He had been going off to the works to help to find advice for anything that he needed, to find information. And she's like, I'm coming with you. And they're like, okay. So they went together to there. And when they arrived, she had met Boit, who was in a part of his clan of Rook Riders, and she is like his hearth sister, and she was more of a sister to him than his actual siblings were. So while there, they had talked to the Hearth Mother, who had been a story keeper, and she'd had a bunch of stories, so they asked for one. Also, when they were there, they ran into, before she had come back, they ran into a shapeshifter from Alderlin, and they wanted to know why he was there. Like, they didn't know he was a shapeshifter at that time, but he was a merchant and wanted to know why he was there. And Satag brought Nezran around for a tour of all the places, and they went to a bunch of the towers, and then she had come back. So, back in the palace, Chill had gotten better and better healed. He had managed to move part of his legs, and then he went to try to get the attention of the Kanji again. He went into a meeting. He went in, and he was like, I told you, if you want to talk to me, you have to cancel a meeting. It's like, no, I'm not here to talk to you. I'm here to talk to a person of foreign trades. It's like, okay. It's like, you know that weapon that they ordered? We need 2 more. We double that. Because they had figured out that Aelin, what she'd done in Empire of Storms, she had gone to Skull's Bay because Hazar, one of the princesses, had told Yurin to figure out something, to figure out where Aelin might be because she was missing. And so Charles was like, okay, let's see. Well, like, she definitely wouldn't be in Skull's Bay, so she told Yurin Skull's Bay. And she had been there and had basically conquered the place because, Wolf let her. And so they're saying that Wolf wanted one and they wanted to double it. He's like, okay. So he was hauled out of the office by the king. And it was by one of the guards that he had started training with. So he was sort of embarrassed, and he was stuck in the chair. He was so hard. He was so desperately trying to stand, but he couldn't. He was hauled away. And then he had come that day, and he was so mad, and he's like, oh my gosh. And so he had kind of, one point of one of the healing sessions, he had blown up on her and insulted her greatly. He's like, at least Aelin is actually doing something with what had happened, because the same story had happened to her. Her mother had been killed by them. At least Aelin's actually doing something about it, not just staying here. So she had started crying, and he's like, oh my gosh, and he realized it, and so he stood up, which he hadn't been able to do yet, and he was taking steps at her, and Yuan was kind of egging it on, so he would take more steps, and they were so happy at what had been happening, because he could feel most of his legs, and he was actually walking. So they fashioned him a cane so he could walk better. And then later, Yurin had been coming up to the palace when she had sounded like she was being chased. So she ran up to Charles' room, and they closed the door and barricaded it. I said, but before I could walk, they barricaded it. And she came in, and then they went to the bedroom and barricaded that, and he's like, what are you doing? He's like, just... And someone smashed the door, and then they tried to smash that, and they were saying, you're in. And then eventually the guards came from that. They heard it, and they managed to do a search, but they couldn't find anything that was Vlag-like, which they knew who it had been. So they sort of dismissed the issue. Back in with the Rooks, Nezran, she had started showing them her skill with a bow and arrow, and they had been flying around because apparently some of the hatchlings of the Rooks, they had been stolen, and they had they figured out why Falcon was there, about the spider silk, and so they decided to check one of the Fae towers after who in the Hearth Mother had told them a story of all about that happened, that the Fae had moved in with the watchtowers to stop the spider-like creatures who were demon foot soldiers, basically. And so they flew to that tower, and it was trapped, which they knew that it was trapped. So they went one step at a time, checking to make sure it wasn't trapped, and then going. And then when they got to the bottom of the stairs, there was writing in Fey language, which neither of them could read. And they're like, we wish we had paper or something, and they're like, and they heard a voice. It says, look up, because the people always forgot to look up at who they were saving from. They looked, and it was one of those spider-like creatures, and it attacked them. They managed to, they heard a howl, and then a gigantic wolf came and attacked it, so they managed to run away. And then, the Rook, Kardara, who was Sartag's Rook, after the wolf had fought him, had gotten the spider and killed it, because they were trained to do that, figured out the Falcon was a shapeshifter, which he didn't know he could actually shapeshift, and Sartag didn't trust him that much. But they managed, but when they got back home to the, Rook clan, they patched him up, and then they decided that, then they heard that, the creatures were, that they were rising again, because they were riding with Boyd, and they ran into Urain, who apparently was her betrothed, and she was like a jerk to him. So they heard that they were stirring again, and they decided to set up a thing to defeat them. So they went into the forest, like after Falcon had healed. They went to the forest, and they found the Dungle Fells where the spider things lived. And they found them there, and they found a hatchling, and so they went to go for it when they realized it was a trap, and they got tangled in a web. They got, the spiders came, and it killed the Rook, and then Kaja couldn't get free, so they started cutting her out. But then she was too weak to fly, and so they told her to get out, and they started running. Sartag was very badly injured, and so they ran until he got stuck, and then they tried to pull him, but then they couldn't get him free, so he grabbed him. Nazarene kept running, and then she realized that they said that they would bring them back to the lair, and so they wouldn't kill them first. So she fell over and let them take her. And she woke up and heard a story telling how there was a Vlag queen who had married the oldest of the Vlag kings, and who would be coming back for the spies, so they waited. And, in the human world, she called herself Maeve. So Maeve was not a Fey queen, but a Vlag queen, who was pretending she was a Vlag, who was pretending she was a Fey queen all these years by changing all those people's minds. That's why her power was dark like it was. So after hearing that story, Falcon had been chewing at the ropes and everything, and then he had, when they basically said they were gonna kill her, he turned into one of the spiders, and he came in and was like, Rook Riders fly over the thing. So that spider left and watched them. He freed Sartag, and she was free, and they managed to escape, but then they were surrounded, so she fired an arrow that was on fire at them, at the spiders, because they were demons, Vag demons that didn't like fire, which is how Eileen got one of them killed, basically. And then another arrow was fired, and the riders actually did come and save them, so they managed to get out alive and return where they called a meeting among all of the clans, and he told them all that had happened and said that he asked who would fly with them back. So they had waited for the answer, and someone had returned with a note from Troll that said, "Return fast, we need you." So because after all that happened, so they figured out, so they were going as fast as the wind could bring them back. Back in the palace, Troll had made a tremendous progress and could walk fine, because Yuan had figured out, she had heard advice that said, go to the place you fear to tread. So she figured out, those bells, this place called the Womb, it kind of had heat baths and all the healers that came in would bring bells and put them in the room. So she rung hers and followed it to the sound of a person who was her ancestor, a very old bell that's last name was Towers, just like hers. So she went inside herself, and she figured out how she would defeat the thing inside Chol. So she went and she stopped, and she figured out, she went inside with all of the power, and she faced it. And she realized that Chol would have to face it for it to work. So Chol saw a picture of Aylin, and she was like smiling at him, reading a book. And then he started feeling mad at her because she had made him break oaths and everything. And then Rowan came, was beside her, and he realized that he wasn't mad at her. They managed to defeat it, but and so they went to the desert for Yurin's birthday because they were trying to figure out how to go to the Asgard Oasis, which might have the information that they were looking for. They found the oasis, and they figured out that it was a Fae sort of burial area, and that they had probably went there to like stand land, and that's all. And healers were drawn to there. They had figured out that healers could save the people infested by the Vlag by killing it, basically. So they went to see Hephaestus, the healer on high, and she wasn't an officer, and everyone said she was. So they realized that the tunnels. They went to the library and found them in the tunnels in the library, just kind of like the tunnel of the other palace that Selena had gone into, or Elaine had gone into. So they ran down the tunnels, and they found Dova, who was one of, well, now the youngest daughter of the Kansei, and she was also pregnant. So she had a knife to the healer's throat, and was saying how basically she was infested by a Vlag demon from a ring that she had gotten as a wedding present, and that the Vlag inside of her had been the one to kill Tumulun, the younger sister, and that Yuan could come with her to the tower and to come with her back to Erwin and his forces, because she had been looking for her. So she had been coming towards Yuan when Hephaestus rolled a chair around and banged it on her, and they were worried about like the baby Dova had. So after she had started firing after Hephaestus was like down, Chol had started fighting her, and she had started firing dark magic at Chol, and so he had used the mirror, which he reflected the powers off and hit her and made her crumple down, and then the mirror had shattered, and they thought she was dead. So she went over there and she started laughing basically, and Chol fired again at Chol, and so all of the work that she had done to heal him basically was reversed in that second. So Nazarene and Saratag had gotten back. With them, healers had come, and Hephaestus had managed to make Dova go to sleep, so she wasn't a problem. And then Chol, who was injured, he was barely breathing at all. Yuan went over there to save him, and she couldn't. So she went into thing, and they asked her she could tell he was dying. So she was like inside, and they're like, to heal him, you would have to pay the price. There would be a cost. And she's like, I'll pay it. And all the healers basically gathered together to heal him, and she paid the price, which figured out was their souls would be bonded together, and that Chol couldn't be healed, but when Yuan's had her magic and it wasn't drained, it was like a brace to help him walk. And that when one of them died, the other would die too, no matter how it was. And how Chol would need like a cane or a chair if Yuan's powers drained too much. So they brought Dova over to the Kanji and all the siblings, and they said what had happened about the Vlag and everything, and one of the siblings, Argon, didn't believe it. He's like, it's true. So Ken's like, talk to you, and can you healer. She's like, I'll try. So she went to heal her, and it took all of her power. She went inside, she attacked her with all she could, and she pulled the wing off, and then the demon inside of her had started fighting back. So she was like kicking, and two of the princesses, her older brothers, held her down. Well, Yuan doubled deep inside, and she killed it enough to where she saw like the creature's form, and he was like, and she was like pathetic, a prince using a poor woman. It's like, that's what you're on. You're not a princess. So there was not only Vlog princes, but there was Vlog princesses as well, and there was the Vlog queen. They managed to heal her, and that he's like, is all they said true? And she's like, yes, it is. So the baby ended up being fine, and everything was fine. But the king person told you, and whatever you need, he'll do. He's like, a favor. So she had asked to save her land, and so when they went off to the war, they had 300 healers, some of the rooks with them to fly back, and a bunch of 1,000 ships to fight with the rest of Aylin's army that she had gathered in the last one by calling in a bunch of favors. Also, in that time before they left, Yuan and Chol got secretly married, another secret marriage, like Aylin and Rowan had in the last one. And they were talking, and Chol saw the letter that Yuan had received from the stranger that helped her get there. Earlier, he had gotten her a locket for her birthday, because he always saw her grabbing the thing in her pocket. So, Yuan had told Chol about it, the note that she had held, because it helped her feel brave and helped her go on. So she had put it in the locket that he had given her for her birthday. But anyways, she opened the locket. He's like, I wouldn't need this anymore. I'm not alone. I found my courage. So Chol had gotten it and read it, and he said it was in the handwriting he knew so well. He was like, she must have been 16 or 17, going to train with the silent assassins. And it was Aylin who had given Yuan the money she needed to become a healer. And so basically, after Aylin had helped her, she was going back to help her. She was going back to help Aylin. That small act of kindness that she had shown 3 years earlier, that had gotten her to where she was and healed him. Which I already was guessing, because they were saying an assassin who had helped her. I didn't know she was an assassin, but I was like, I bet it's her. And it was. And so it made me so excited to read more about Aylin. At the end of this book, there's a thing, and it's called Fireheart. It's like a page and a half long. And it was saying how she was entombed in iron, and that she had been half asleep, but then the lid got taken off, and the light had hurt her eyes, and Maeve was like, good, you're awake. So one of her huntsmen had pulled her out with her chains, and she was like, now we can begin. Which, oh my gosh, it made me, I was like, I love Aylin so much. I want to read more with her, because, this book is really good, but I prefer books that had Aylin in it, because I love Aylin. She's awesome. So I can't wait for them to go together. Oh, and Chol thinks that Aylin's sailing, because, Sandra took the form of her. So Chol thinks Aylin's sailing with Armanda. He doesn't know that she had been taken by Maeve. And now that they know Maeve's a Vlog queen, they can figure out how to defeat her easier. So now they're going to have to save her in the next book. They're going to have to save Aylin, or Aylin's going to have to save herself. So hopefully, I don't know what Maeve is going to do with her, because then now we can begin. But oh my gosh, I'm so worried for Aylin, and I cannot wait till 2018 when I can read the next book, because I love this series so much. I'm so glad that I found it. Anyways, I hope you liked this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure to comment your opinions about it below. Bye.